to it.
All I can do is point toward and ask you to look to see what I'm pointing to. See for yourself what I'm pointing to. Because nobody can ever do it for you. I don't think they will. Because what we talk about is non-duality, or one without a second. The one essence is patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing and expressing as everything. You, me, the world and all its contents. It's that one, what I call, for want of a better term, intelligence energy. The activity of knowing. And it's there right now with you, presently, ever before your eyes. As soon as you put thoughts on it, you miss it. There's clear presence awareness. Doesn't need to be thought about. Because what needs to come up, comes up spontaneously and naturally. Just if you ask yourself, what's my next thought going to be? You can't tell me. The thoughts arise. So everything is happening spontaneously, naturally, and effortlessly. Just the same as the earth is rolling around the sun. The seasons coming and going, the tides coming in and out, fires, floods, droughts, all stars imploding or exploding. Everything in this manifestation that's appearing all spontaneously, naturally and everything. There's no big daddy up in the sky that's going to give you this or take that away from you or stop it or start it. It's an innate intelligence energy, like a magnet that draws everything to it. So that intelligence or that life essence, patterns, shapes and forms and everything, has everything. As Einstein tells you, it's nothing but energy. It's all energy. Energy, in the way it patterns, shapes and forms, implies it's suffused with intelligence. To form a human pattern, a tree, a flower, and all the other animals, birds, implies there is innate intelligence, patterning, shaping, forming everything, expressing through it. And the happenings is energy. Energy is an activity. So it's an activity of knowing. You're knowing this, you're knowing that, everything is that pure knowing, pure being. So you're already there. Always have been and always will be, because that is all there is. And the pattern, shapes and forms, the nama rupa, the pattern, shapes and forms, nama rupa, they say, is Maya. It's talking about the body, mind, and all kind of things. Is illusory. So this manifestation is illusory. But the very life in you is what you are. Not the body, not the mind, which you innately know already. Because you say my body, my mind, my house, my car. You know you're not the house or the car. Maybe you're not the body either, or the mind. And that's what they tell you also, that the false cannot stand up to investigation. Have you investigated these things? Have you looked into them? If you have, investigate them thoroughly, you'll see what is not real will fall apart under the investigation. And that's happened to so many things in your life already. But that which is the actuality is birthless, timeless, spaceless, bodiless, mindless. It's beyond any whens, where, or how. It's pure isness. What is? So you are this person that investigated. My body, my mind. When you say my house, my car, my coat, you know you're not the house, the car, or the coat. So maybe you're not the body either. Who's the me or the my that is claiming this body? It's a conceptual imagery pattern. We are believed in person. Me, I am this person. I am this human being. Well, look at that one for a starter. Being. You call yourself a human being. And if you believe in God, you'll call God the supreme being. So you've divided the beings into human and supreme. Take away that word human, take away the word supreme. So the two words are gone, but can you divide the beings? Can you say, I am not? You can't. You can say it loudly as you like, but you realise there's something there that's enabling it to be said. If you hadn't had the body to express through, or the voice, or the so-called thinking process, which you call the mind, how could you express or say anything? You couldn't. So when you investigate it, you are not the body. It's the same with the mind. Show me your mind. What is mind after all? When you break it down, it's nothing but thought, feeling, emotion. That's what we call mind. Well, if your mind, you believe you are the mind, which particular thought would you be? And you realise the primary thought is I. I am. And if you were a thought, you'd be frightened to let it go because it'd be the end of you. But you're glad to give it up every night when you go to sleep. You couldn't care less about it. You want to give it up. You want to get rest and go. But through that sleep, you might dream. And you'll be in all sorts of places, doing all sorts of activities. When you wake up in the morning, the dream disappears. And when you look into it, all those activities that seem to be taking place, you realise your body hadn't moved off the bed. No words had come out of your mouth. The dream had gone on. Now you've woken up, all the mountains, the hills, or the shopping malls, or wherever you were, all those things disappeared. But what you don't realise, that you wake up to this dream, the waking dream or the living dream. That's all it is. Everything disappears in the dream at night, but when you wake up in the morning, it all appears again. You wake up to this because this waking dream carries on every morning from where it left off the night before. But we don't recognise it as a dream, we think it's real. It's real, all right, in its essence, but not as it appears. And you and I and everything else in this manifestation are appearances, seemingly so. That's why they call it a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So the manifestation is only appearance, seemingly so. And look at the amazing and wondrous ways it can appear, implying it's suffused with that innate intelligence, with that light essence. That's why Christ told you, I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. People thought he was talking about himself, the person. He wasn't. He was talking about that sense of presence, that knowing and being what you are that translates through the mind as the thought I am. That's all that I am is the sense of presence, an awareness of presence, awareness of being. So you can say the same thing. Anyone who is not existing right now, or existence consciousness bliss, as they put it in Advaita terms, Nama Rupa, existence consciousness bliss, Nama Rupa. Existence, anyone who is not existing right now? No, you know you are existing. Anyone who's not a conscious right now, you can't say you are unconscious, or you're not unaware, so you're conscious and aware. Anyone who's not happy to be, well, you don't want to be dead right now, do you? So you're happy to be. So you are that Satchitananda already. What are you searching for? When you're already that. When that is all there is. And innately you know that too. Because that's the great mantra, I am that. And you know that because that's the chair you're sitting in, isn't it? That's the room the chair's in. That's the tree outside of the flower. The bird, the animal, whatever's there. The cars. Everything is that already. And that, everything is that, and that is everything, which we put words or labels on. We discriminate with the word. How many words were you born with? You realise you weren't born with any words. And you didn't learn words till you were about 2.5, when the capacity of reasoning started in you. That capacity of reasoning started about when you started to learn words, about 2.5, the read, you started to read as you were growing up. But you weren't born with any words. That's why you can't remember your birth. How can you say you were born when you had no words at the time to say anything about it at all? People talk about being recognising they're being born. But how could they know if they didn't have any words? So we learnt words from our parents. Your parents fussing around you, your little Johnny or your little Jane or whatever your name might be. And the first word you know, it learns that sense of presence translates, and knowing that you are is the thought I am. If somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, oh, I'm Pat or Jane or Bob or whatever your word might be. And so we missed out on giving them a wrong answer for a start on. What you are is the absolute, because that is all there is, absolute. Well, the great perfection, what they call in Buddhism, the great perfection. What can you add to the absolute? Not one simple single thing, because it wouldn't be absolute if any more could be added to it. What can you take away from it? Not a single thing. It wouldn't be absolute. So you are the absolute, and if you recognise that you are the absolute, you can't go around saying you're the absolute. They'll put you in the funny farm because they don't understand it, most of them are wrong. So you put on, I am this person, this body, mind, entity. Where does that word person come from? Look it up, it comes from the ancient Latin persona, the mask. We've got a mask or a conceptual image, which we're hiding our reality and living from that believed in mask of concepts. And so we get lost in it and suffer accordingly. So you weren't born with any words, and you picked up words about 2.5. But have a look at these words. So every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been learned. and investigate the word and see the word not the thing. Take the word water, try and drink the word. You can't. Try and swim in the word. See if you'll drown in the word. Wash in the word. Take the word fire. Try and burn yourself with the word. Try and cook with it. Try and heat yourself, warm yourself with the word. You can't. So you see the word is not the real. It's not the thing. But we put the energy of belief into it and think it is real. So we've got all these words. Trying to grasp it with the concept. And what do the Buddhists say? They call it the great perfection. Now, the perfection is just the same as the absolute. You can't add anything to it, take anything away. But they give it to you in one sentence here. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Talking about that awareness without any concepts. Now, what is awareness? You can't tell me what it is. You can't give me a description about what an awareness is. All you can do is know that you are not unaware at this moment. And if you're not unaware, you must be aware, because that's how it functions, and the opposite. So you are awareness right now. And everything, all the contents of this manifestation, all that happens in that awareness. And we put the labels and concepts on it and lose sight of the reality of it. So when we're searching to become something, we wonder why it doesn't happen. You've probably been searching for a while right now, and you've never achieved anything. Why? Because you can't grasp it with the concept. Nisargadatta tells you that clearly. He says we try to grasp it with the concept, and we fail. He says you're bound to fail, because it's non-conceptual awareness. It's awareness without any concept. You ask yourself, what is wrong with right now if I don't think about it? And pause and have a look at that, and you realize you can't say it's right or wrong or good or bad without a thought. But without that thought, and you can't pause the thought for a moment, you've got to drop naturally into it, or don't attach to anything that's appearing in the thought. It's the attachment, the fixation on it, that divides it up. When they're not attaching to it or fixating it, leave it as it is, it moves on. Now, you can't grasp it with any thought. So it's thought-free, ever fresh, or spontaneous. This manifestation is transient. It's constantly changing. And have a look at that. You mightn't realise that, but that's not the same body you picked up the Skype with a few minutes ago. There's changing going on right now in this moment. There are thousands of cells dying in it and being replaced. You don't realise that. And every cell that replaces the dead cell is fused with that intelligence energy knowing what to do. Skin cell's not going to replace a heart cell. Heart cell's not going to replace a liver cell. The brain cell's not going to replace any other cells in the body. Each cell's suffused with an innate intelligence, knows what to do. And you are that intelligence. You are that life essence. And the Nisargadatta tells you there is only life. That's all there is, life. Nothing else. Only life. And he says life lives on life. And that's true. The food you eat was life once. The vegetables, the animals, whatever we eat, was all life once. And out of life, more life comes. And that's a fact. Where did you start? Where did you come from? You came from your life, your parents, from your mother. Formed in the womb of your mother. So out of the life, more life comes. Your parents came from the life of their parents, and so on and so on. The life comes from all. And you are that life, not the body or the mind, the pattern, shape, and form in which it expresses through. You are the life, the animating intelligence energy that's in that body, the life itself. Take the life out of that body, you got a corpse. And that corpse has still got eyes before it rots and breaks down. It's got eyes, ears, brain, heart, liver, lungs, kidneys. All the organs are there. But what can they do without that animating force, that life essence? Nothing at all. So you must realise from that you are the life. As Christ told you, I'm the way, I'm the truth, I'm the life. And out of that life, more life comes. So we use that like the analogy, recognise that you are that life. And that it's a good analogy to some expressions that like your computer. The computer's been formed by that life that's in these particular bodies, and formed the computer with all the amazing information in it. And but you can punch those keys as much as you like and run the mouse over it as much as you like. If you haven't got the power turned on, what are you going to get out of it? Not a thing. It's not a bit of good. It's a corpse. So I say it's a dead machine. So the same with this body. What are you going to get out of this body if the life's not in it? Nothing. You can't say a word, can't have any activity, or digest any food or do anything. So again, pointing out that you are the life. How did you come about? Go back as far as your father and your mother. That animating life essence, the pattern. You call your father. In that pattern, through the breathing, the prana, and the food he was eating, and the energy that's forming, the life that's forming, in that pattern, a microscopic particle called a sperm to form. You can't see it with your naked eye. But that sperm was suffused with life energy. It knew what to do. And the same with that pattern, you call your mother. That animating life essence in that pattern, you call your mother. Enabled in that pattern. Another microscopic never mind. Called an egg to form. That egg was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. The sperm, knowing what to do, swam to the egg and penetrated the egg. Both knowing what to do. With no two patterns of energy, intelligence, energy come together. And from the genes and the food essence that's in that body of the mother, doubled that cell, doubled it again, formed the little embryo and the little fetus, which is what you are today. What were you doing about it then? Did you say, well, I've got to grow this and go a bit taller and do it? You didn't say anything about it at all because you had no words. You couldn't say them. But the life that you are knew what to do, just the same as it's knowing what to do today. It kept you breathing. It kept your heart beating, kept growing, kept digesting your food, replacing the cells in your body, knowing what to do. And it's still doing it to this day. But we lost sight of it when we learnt words. As I say, your parents when your capacity of reading started, you started to learn words, and your parents gave you a name. And then that sense of presence when you learnt words yourself, and you learnt words like I am, and put the label I am Bill, and Bob, or Jane, whatever the name might be. And someone asks you today, who are you? You'll say, oh, I'm Bill so-and-so. Not saying what you actually really are. You are the absolute. But relating to this conceptual image, this person. And because we're relating to that, we're not getting a full, earnest or honest take of what we actually are, if you are the reality. And it's that sense of presence, I amness. People think they've got to, when they hear the word I am, they've got to stay with the I am. And I think if I repeat it and use it as a mantra, it'll get me somewhere. Not realizing what is the I am. When you investigate it, it's just a word or a thought, which is expressing that sense of presence that's innately with you, that sense of knowing that you are, the awareness of being. To put it into words, you've got to say, I am. So we've broken ourselves down into I am so-and-so, from the absolute. And that I am with the capacity of reasoning tells you learn words, and your parents tell you, your little Billy or little Johnny, and you look out there and you say, that doesn't fit little Johnny. That's not me. That's not I am. So immediately with that, seeing something you don't understand or don't know what it is, comes that sense of insecurity, vulnerability and fear, because you're not sure what it is. And that's when all our problems start. With that insecurity and vulnerability. We lost sight of our totality, our absolute, but been obscured. And we go on adding to it. We learn more words and go to school and learn more words again. And so we start putting concepts, I'm this or I'm that, and I'm not good enough, I'm fearful, I'm unhappy, I'm depressed. So we've got this now, they've got this conceptual image. A conceptual image, an image made up of concepts, ideas and thoughts. It's insecure, it's vulnerable, it's fearful, it's anxious. So it's when all our psychological problems start from. That sense of separation. We've separated ourselves from the absolute, the totality. But I tell you again in the scriptures, it's inseparable. It cannot be separated. It's indivisible. It can't be divided. We're dividing it and separating, but it can't be divided conceptually. So when you recognise that though you believe you're dividing and separated, it can't be divided, it can't be separated. What are you going to cling to? Aren't you going to stabilise and settle into that innate intelligence, the knowing that you are? And recognising I am that life essence. I am that intelligence, energy. I'm not this person that's fearful, anxious, and unhappy. See how that works in your body. Something comes up and you like it. And we don't want the things that we like to disappear. We want to keep them there. Not realising that everything is a vibration, everything is transient, it's constantly changing. No matter how much you love them, you want to keep them there, they're going to change, they're going to go, they're going to disappear or change. It's certainly going to change. And you yourself are changing. Look back now on that body a few years ago. You can notice the change in it, but you mightn't notice that in this moment, but it's changing right now, it's transient also. So you know what the good things to do? And what do? We resist it from going. We try to keep it there, not allowing the change to happen. And any resistance you are in, you're in conflict. So now there's resistance and conflict. And that root conflict makes you uneasy, fearful, anxious, depressed, guilty. All these concepts start building up from that resistance. That's uneasiness. Another word for uneasiness is disease. You're not at ease anymore. So it's disease. So while we're in this thinking pattern, we're in resistance, conflict, antecedes. And the other way around, something comes up that you don't like. Oh, this is a bad one. I shouldn't be thinking that about myself or about these others. Got to get rid of this. Got to get rid of it. I don't want to keep that. That's sinful. That's there. So what do I do again? The same thing. I resist it. Trying to get rid of it this time instead of trying to keep it down. And again, it'll come up as unhappiness, fear, anxiety, stress, guilt, all the psychological jealous envy, all the problems will come up in that resistance again. The dis-ease, the uneasiness. So that's what our life consists of. Constant unhappiness, constant fear, anxiety, stress, never being still for a moment, though there are moments when you're thought-free and things fall into place. And there's a joyousness. We've had tastes of it all through your life, but it's never lasted. Why? Because we pick up the thought again. We go back into the thoughts. We start the story again. Because it's telling a story, oh, if I don't do this, this will happen. And blah, 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 blah. And the story goes on and on and on. Something comes, yes, it's so and so, but. That's good, but what about this? What about that? If you smoked years ago, or you might be still smoking today, what did you do with the butts? You tossed the butts out. What do you do when a butt comes up in your mind? You don't toss it out, you carry it on and start another story with it. But when you learn to throw the butts out and leave it as it is, you'll notice a big difference and see a change come about, where things will start to fall into place. Keep reminding yourself. Do that, what that statement says in the Bible. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. How would you renew your mind? Just keep reminding yourself, I am the absolute. I'm not this person. I am the great perfection. I am the one without a second. I'm not this person. In that reminding, it'll settle down and stabilize. In that stabilization, it'll be hard to be dragged back into the conceptualizing thinking process anymore. And the livingness will be in this presence awareness. Really living, not living conceptually or not living from the mind, but the natural, spontaneous, ever fresh, living, being, knowing, and loving to be. Test it out and see for yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. See if it works. That's the acid test of anything. Test it out. Does it work? If it doesn't work, keep looking. If you get taste of it working, follow it through and see that it'll take you where you need to go. You don't have to think your way in it. In the matter of fact, you can't think your way in it, because you're using the mind to try and get it, you won't. And they tell you, you'll never get peace of mind. Never. And they call it the peace that passes all understanding. And that's why they call it that, because it can't be understood or grasped with a concept in the mind. When they're saying it's the peace that passes all understanding, they say don't try and grasp it with the mind, because the nature of the mind is to divide. It'll keep dividing. When you look at this thing called mind, you'll see there's no such thing there apart from thought. What's thought? Thought, sound, noise, word, vibration, energy. No, it's just a vibrating pattern of energy. It vibrates into words, thoughts, ideas, images. The Saga tells you that nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. Break that word down to imagine or image in. Break it down further to image in. And realise that's what we're doing. We're creating mental or conceptual images. in a thought. Each thought is an image in your mind. Taking mental conceptual images and taking the images or the words to be real. And that's why we suffer. Because these thoughts, these images become imagination. And then story again. We're back in the story, the pattern, shape, and form. And that's what our trouble is. What's wrong with right now if I don't think about it? And you realise without a thought you can't say a thing. But you can't pause the thought either. Thoughts arise of themselves. Well, let them arise. Don't attach to them. Don't necessarily take them on board or fixate on it. See it there and leave it as it is, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. No preference, no partiality, no comparison. And it will move on. But while we're trying to grasp it, we're dividing it. This is bad, I don't want it. Or this is good and I want more of it. And that's the way the mind functions. As Shakespeare told you 400 years ago, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So we've got this capacity of thinking. But what's your next thought going to be? You're saying, I can't tell you, and you can't. The thought will come up of itself. And then you'll grasp it and say, oh, I think this thought. So you say, oh, I think, you formed a subject, a thinker. Instead of now being the absolute, you are the thinker, me, Bill or Bob, whatever your name might be. Oh, I'm thinking this thought. And the thought is another word or a concept. So there's a thinker and the thought. Isn't that duality? Subject, object. Two. That's duality. We're talking about non-duality. We'll investigate that. Can there be a thinker without thinking? You look at it and realise there can't be a thinker without thinking. Can there be the thought without thinking? And there can't be a thought without thinking. So subject, object are concepts. But the thinking is the actuality. Thinking is the spontaneous activity that's going on. Not I think, but thinking. Just the same as seeing. I see, you form the subject. But with the seeing, and your eye doesn't tell you I see, and the thought comes up, I see. But the thought I see can't see. But seeing is happening. As they say, seeing no thing, yet it is seen. All its manifestation is no thing. You're seeing it. You don't realise that you're seeing no thing. You're putting subject, object up at the vision. Hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, experiencing. The ing is the actuality that's going on all the time. Breathing, heart beating, hair and fingernails growing. The ing is the actuality. I see, I think, I taste, I touch, I breathe, I beat my heart. You're relating to this conceptual image, a dead image. And it's not the fact. And that allows the suffering to be there. Now, all these fears, anxiety, stress and guilt come up through the activity of thinking. All concepts, all ideas, all images. All created by the believed in me. Me is the cause of your sadness, your unhappiness, your guilt, your shame, your judgment. Me is the cause, and the effects are that cause are the unhappiness, the distress, the guilt. That's all the so-called karma is, cause and effect. I ask myself the question, can there be an effect if I'm not relating to a cause? If there's no cause, what can be affected, or who or why can be affected without the cause? And if me is the cause, then I've investigated the me and see that the me is a fiction. Well, if I recognise that the me is a fiction, and I can't relate to anything, it's all just as it is, what's going to happen to the so-called karma that I've believed in? Who can be affected by it? Only the believed in me, which is the cause of all my fears, anxiety, and stress. So you can be free from all this psychological suffering. And that's where the peace is, in that freedom. That's where the joyousness is. That's where all the love, the compassion, the heartfelt happiness, the pure being, knowing and loving to be. When you're not relating to the cause, it's there, naturally, spontaneously, and effortlessly. Relate to the cause, and you're back in the trap. And when you look at it all, you see the cause, me, is a concept. It has no substance or really independent nature. And we've been relating to it all this time because we never investigated, we never looked into it. We've gone along with it. Our parents, our schools, our society told us it and reinforced it. And then we learned a few words and we started reinforcing it ourselves. And been reinforcing it ever since, trying to find the answer in the mind. And I tell you that clearly, the answer is not in the mind. You'll never get peace of mind. And they call it the peace that passes all understanding. What does that point out? Where do you understand all these things? The understanding is in the mind. So they tell you the peace is not there. It's beyond all understanding. It's prior to any understanding. So it's prior to the mind and the me. So that's where the peace is, and that's where you'll find it. Just a little bit of investigation, a little bit of looking and see for yourself, and know the truth. That's the scripture saying, and knowing the truth, the truth will set you free. What are you free from? You're free from the belief that you are this person. Have a look at that word belief. The dictionary
Dictionary definition of belief.
The dictionary definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. Put your belief to that test. See if they'll stand up. You'll find they won't, they'll fall apart under it. And with we're going to that left with, what are you left with? You're left with the direct knowing, the pure being, knowing and loving to be, the Satchitananda, the one without a second. The Atman self, the one self, not the personal self. There's only one self. They call it the Atman self. One life, one energy, one intelligence. Call it God if you like. But don't put that label, because in all the different scriptures and texts and all of this, they have different labels for God. Each one of them. Great religions will have a different concept or idea about God. And yet they'll basically all tell you there's only one Atman, one self, one God. If you like to use that term. I use the term intelligence energy. Talking about intelligence energy, I'm not talking about your intellects. Because your intellects come and go. I'm talking about the same intelligence that's rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come and go, the tides to come in and out, the planets and stars to form, implode, explode, the mountains and hills arise and all the rest. Day and night. That same intelligence is what's beating your heart. It's breathing you. It's going fair in the fingernails. It's digesting your food. It's replacing cells in your body. It's only the one essence that's doing everything. One essence. And one life. One being. And you are that, and you know it. I am that. Because you say, that's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the tree. You know everything is that. But we discriminate by putting the word on. And I am that. You know you are that. That is what I am. Only that. Because that is all there is. Settle into that and know that and recognize it. And that'll let you know more about itself. When you are acknowledging. As it says again in the scriptures, acknowledge him in all thy ways. And he will direct thy path. I think the him we're talking about is Big Daddy in the sky. We've got to pray to him and never give it to it. That's not that. It's that innate life essence, that intelligence energy. Relate to that life that you are. And then it says, thou shalt hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. Whether you turn to the left or turn to the right. No, right. What they call the still small voice. And we think we've got to hear a voice. Well, it will sound like a voice, but it is your intuition, the inner teacher, that brings the thought or the realization or the recognition up. You intuit something. Listen to it. It'll guide you where you've got to go. And it's been there all the time, but it's been ignored. Like our true nature has been ignored. They call it ignorance in the scripture. We hear that word, we think we're dull or stupid. But it doesn't mean that at all. What it means is we just turned our backs on things. We ignore it, we're not noticing it. So we ignored and focus into the conception. We think we can find the answer in the mind, instead of realizing that the innate intelligence will bring to you, just as it's rolling the earth around the sun, causing the stars and light to twinkle and the moon to shine and all the rest of it, doing everything, so it will guide you. As Einstein tells you, he said, I worked on this problem for days, couldn't find the answer. One night I went to sleep and woke up next morning, there it was. Life had brought it to him and brought so many other things that he expresses. He mightn't realise this, but he's a good non-dualist. You know a lot about it and a lot of it. Well, some of his quotes and statements he made. So there it is. And there you are. You get to come in and say a few words. And then some of you are recognising it, know it. Don't hesitate to let it out. You might express it in a different way to what I do, but somebody might resonate it and hear it differently. And others of you are a bit new to it, might have questions. Don't be frightened to ask them. A lot of us are fearful asking questions. What will they think of me? Who are they that are going to think of me? And the reason of they is that one essence just the same as you are. Who the hell would matter care what they say, think or do? So it becomes laughable and settle into it. So away you go. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Yes, so, as he said, you are already that, and express it, tell us about it, because it will reinforce it in yourself and it may help others. As I said a few times here, some of Bob's pointers I could only hear when they were repeated with someone with less stabilization in that clarity, because I was unstable, so I couldn't resonate. It was just it was the frequency was much closer from someone who was just getting it, just slowly penetrating through. So, or someone completely unclear, but who was just lucky to say it the right way. That's how the resonance works. It may actually be much more helpful if the same pointer is repeated by you, whether your clarity is as good as his or is probably maybe a little younger. He's got this advanced age behind him, which we don't just yet. So if there was anything that you heard that really resonated, repeat even in the same words, or best in your own words, and see if it, see how it sounds, see how it feels, see how it vibrates, how it resonates. So if anyone feels moved to say something, just unmute yourself and we will see who's unmute. And if it's more than one, we'll just call the name. Oh, I see Julie. Hi.
Hi. I had a moment when you said, Bob, one essence doing everything. And it was the idea that the essence, builds universes, has the earth going around the sun, breathes us, creates, has the intelligence in the cells. And then I was like, yeah, and yet I still thought that I was doing the thinking and the doing. It was like all this other intelligence was happening by, this intelligence or God, and yet I still thought that I was doing these other things too. So that was kind of like a really nice clarification today, to think actually it's all being done to me, not just those other things. So it was actually a really nice way of it clicking in today.
And what a beautiful point to highlight. Thank you for that. It really is. I mean, how profound it is. One essence, expressing, experiencing as everything, doing everything. Beautiful. Yeah. Doing you, is thinking you, is beating your heart, is growing your hair. It literally brings up the thoughts. So yeah, nobody's a doer of anything, a thinker of any thought. And then in a way of resonance, of course, if someone is a musician, they will get more thoughts about music because that's what the instrument is tuned to. But as Bob was saying, everything is true in its essence, but not in the way it appears. In the way it appears, it is a manifestation of Maya or illusion. But in its essence, that's the reality. That essence is the reality. That potentiality, that aliveness, or that energy is the reality. So there's no reality in thought, but the substratum or substance which manifests as thought is that one essence, is that one life. Even if there is a negative thought, that negative thought is also that one essence, or God in a costume of a negative thought. If someone likes that word, we don't particularly like that word God, but if someone does, well, it's as long as it feels right to you. Omnipresence is probably a better one, or omniscience, omnipotence. But yeah, that's a beautiful highlight. Someone even transcribed some of Bob's talks and put them in the book under the title One Essence, Expressing as Everything. The book is not available right now, but all the talks are available. So you put on YouTube channel and you have the content of the book. It was a beautiful little book. I helped him edit and put it on Amazon, but he didn't publish it for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. But it is the same guy who actually did What's Wrong with Right Now, if you don't think about it. He's got a real gift. He's an artist, Gilbert Schultz. He's an artist in many, many different ways, and he's got incredible skill to pick out brilliant titles. So What's Wrong with Right Now? What a fantastic title for a book. And One Essence, Expressing as Everything. Beautiful title too, because it summarized the content of the book. It gives it to you in one sentence. And really sitting with that pointer and checking out the extent to which that pointer really, really captures the essence. It really is the essence. And see how it is true. And see how, just like Julie, just like you've noticed, yeah, there is no you thinking. It is one essence that doing everything, rolling the earth around the sun. It is that one essence doing it. And expanding your lungs and contracting, that one essence. There's no place for me. Me is completely redundant. Me is just a dream. And really seeing moment to moment and day by day how much simpler and more honest the pure living is, without translating and relating everything through that filter, that fake filter of the me. What job does the me has? None. It's redundant. It really doesn't have to even be conceptualized. But come on, open up. Oh, Tonya, hi.
Hi guys, how are you?
We happy.
I-
How are you?
It's so lovely to see you. I haven't been on for a while, but I've been busy, and it's funny that you're talking about books, Kat and Bob, because I've actually been reading this while I couldn't make it, Bob. I don't know if you can see it or not. Only that.
Yes, that's actually, yeah.
So it's an older book. So while I didn't make it onto the calls, I've still been checking in. And like, I suppose everything that Bob says is so beautiful and resonates. And for me now on the call, there's just an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude just to even hear the words. They're all so profound, I suppose. But I like what you said there, Kat. Everything is true in its essence, but not as it appears. I know you were quoting Bob there. Is that right?
Yeah.
Because I love that. And like, I suppose even coming away from reading Bob's book and, you know, just my own life experiences in the last couple of weeks, you know, there has been situations and circumstances that to the mind you would, they're not too happy is what you say. Well, I mean, look, it's all happiness, but look, they're not ideal is the only way to say it. But I can't swish that underlying sense of well-beingness, knowing I suppose for me, like what Bob said there about the intuition is your inner teacher, and the intuition is telling me that it's all okay regardless, and you know, everything is just how it is. So that inherent trust is there. I suppose because in all the times down through the years when I thought, like, you know, life was very much chaotic, and not how I would have expected it to be, it always unfolded in a way that was, you know, so profoundly beautiful, in a way that I could never have imagined with my mind. So I suppose, again, coming back to everything is true in its essence, but not as it appears. So for me at the moment, there's an appearance of chaos and not these warm fuzzy feelings, but the underlying current underneath it is, you know, knowing that there's truth there regardless, and whether I can make sense of it or not is not important, because you know, it's all it's all it. And like, you know, even coming from your book, Bob, which I really enjoyed, and you know, learning about your life and how it unfolded for you, like there's just an amazing sense of utter devastation and sense of knowing that I don't know, that piece is there regardless, no matter what is going on. I don't know, and that it's all it. There's just it's all it. Like you said earlier there, Bob, it's impossible to divide, to grasp, to cling to it. It's just all in the mind. And if that contraction is there, feel it in your body, that's being sensed in the mind. And you know, yeah, there is a physical thing to that, but it's all it regardless. So yeah, look, I mean, that's just probably a personal me, trying to relax into what's coming up for me now. And it probably is confusing to her. I don't know whether it is or not. But yeah, that's kind of where I am this morning. Just an overwhelming sense of gratitude and love for everything that is now. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's
that's
beautiful. Yeah. And it's a gorgeous summary because yes, everything is that. It really is.
Mm.
Yeah. And recognizing it, even if there is discomfort, physical discomfort or emotional discomfort, even if you hear something that you'd rather not hear or do something that it is still the way it expresses one essence. It's
Yeah.
all that. And then you look at nature and you see, the thunderstorm or hail, and you see the birds hiding on the tree. Well, they don't have narrative that it shouldn't be happening.
And they're always there to be seen. And I suppose even in the periods of like physical overwhelmingness, like like other frustration and anger and sadness, all of these things appearing, and it's like they're very much coming up in the moment, but the importance of them is just not there anymore. Like they're very real, they're very much happening, but it's like I don't know, it's so strange. Even like I can see me wanting to wallow, wanting to suffer, to stay there, even though I know that it's not real. So it's like a seeing through it, but still there's I can still sense something pulling, and the only way to explain it is that there sometimes there's a comfort in the suffering. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's like, but it's a perceived comfort because it's not there. Because once you go through it, once you allow yourself to actually be open to whatever is there happening in the moment within the body, you actually you get to the other side of it.
Yes.
And that's where the freedom is, but it's like, I can, there's something in me that feels like wanting to wallow, wanting to stay there, but the knowing that if I just be present with what is, that you get to the other side. And I don't know, like it just makes me more, the only thing that I can explain is that there is a purpose in that too, because when I look to other people that are choosing to suffer or choosing to cause this discomfort for whatever reason, it's like there's a compassion there, because they're me. I can see myself in them and them in me, in those moments of wanting to stay there, because it's like a perceived comfort. I don't know, in wanting to just, in that moment of wanting just to give up and wanting to wallow in it, it's like, it's, I don't know. I don't even know if that makes sense, but
yeah, that makes total sense. That is being on the same page with life. If life created that moment of discomfort or suffering or sadness, that is what one could say life wants. And you are that life, so you want that with life. You don't resist it, you don't run away from it, you don't want to stop it, you don't want to push it down. This is what life is presenting to itself, dancing on that stage for itself. Because that is just an invitation to really welcome whatever comes up. Bring it on. I mean, be it a physical,
that's so beautiful.
Don't run away.
Yeah, I love how you're saying that, Kat, because I suppose over the last couple of weeks there has been moments of like, I know that I could do better, but on some level I still just stayed. I stayed with it, and it's like, I don't know, there's just a kindness there towards myself no matter what comes up, because like that, like you're just saying, that it's life, that's life. That's life. And it's, I don't know, like that.
And do better according to who? I mean, who says that suppressing feeling is better than experiencing it? Because we say, I could be functional, but I'll stay in bed and sulk, because it's better to be functional than stay in bed and sulk. According to who? To the society? To the consumerism?
and life very much happens. The thing is, right, so when things happen, I very much can, and what I've done my whole life was click into autopilot and just like get shit done, like, you know, like just be on the ball and blah blah, get it done, get it done, get it done. And I suppose like in the roles that are being played, so me professionally, me as a mother, like, you know, there was a choosing where my priorities were. So there was still an awareness of life and the roles that are being played. And it was like, you know, my priority was as a mother, okay, I'm going to take this time now to step away professionally from work, like just in the moment, not a big whole ordeal. But, you know, when the overwhelmingness was there, the choices that were made were to suit, you know, the things closer to me. So I didn't choose to kick into autopilot when it comes to work or anything like that. The choice was to click into being what is, and then going to autopilot when it come to being a mother and stuff like that. And there was still a love in that too, because I don't know, like there was just like there was a space to breathe. I gave myself the space to breathe, but then again, very much aware that things still need to be done, and doing still very much happens. So yeah, that like yeah.
Beautiful. You can see the perfection in the way life operates.
Yeah.
You can see how brilliant it is, you know, when certain behavior is required, when the autopilot is required, when high functioning is required. Well, it will kick in. You don't have to worry. You don't have to choose. Whatever is required in the moment, kick in. And that's a brilliance, because now you can really witness that intelligence of the body, intelligence of life, whatever it chooses to do, because yes, it does seemingly choose to do one behavior or the other. It seemingly chooses to either sulk or contemplate or analyze or whatever the action happens. I found that not only there is no preference whichever response comes up, but there is natural curiosity, as if I don't know that machine. I don't know what it's gonna do. I don't know whether it is gonna, you know, like show someone a finger or cry with them, or I don't know, because every situation is made of infinite amount of different factors contributing together with the past conditioning, all of it. So really being completely open and trusting that life will seemingly choose the best possible outcome, because it is programmed for its own survival and its own comfort. So it will, and if it is conditioned in a way that it also has compassion and it has children and loves them, or it has husband and loves, or whatever, that will be incorporated in the way it unfolds, and trusting in that life and relaxing into that life and discovering that that way it will exhibit and show off that brilliance, that great intelligence. Makes life really, it makes life, makes the eye redundant and makes the eye amazed in discovering, watching, just relaxing and watching whatever the next unfoldment is gonna be.
And I think even the overwhelm, like what is being felt is for me is a lot closer to the truth, because you're not being distracted by playing a story of what has gone on, because I think the story can invoke other feelings on top of it. So you're literally with the truth of what is. So the intensity, I feel like the intensity is intensified if possible, but in that it's like it's like the intensity is literally burning away everything that I don't know, like it's just I don't know how to explain it, but it's like what is being felt is much, it's not the truth. Look, obviously it's not the truth, but what's being felt is much, much closer to the truth. And even in that is itself craving itself, because the truth is what we are. It's the only thing. Anything thought of, any word, any contemplation is away from that. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, like there's just I don't know. Even listening to Speak At, like, you know, there's so much emotion even coming up now, but it's like it's the gratitude. It's like the love of a mother looking at her children. Do you know, it's I don't know, like it's just love. It's just love and appreciation, no matter what, whether it's good or bad, because as Bob said earlier on the call, like it's only the mind that makes it so.
Yeah, beautiful, and a great point in that, you know, like really dissolving the defenses of the self. There is that quality of absolute fearlessness, the quality of bring it on, let it burn me, let it kill me, it doesn't matter. So the yes, the intensity, perceived intensity in that, you know, because you don't put that shield around. So the perceived intensity may be overwhelming a lot of times. Maybe somehow, you know, some moments will be like Bob is equating life to the river. Almost still, nothing. There is no one who is evaluating anything. There is nothing wrong. There is nothing. And then suddenly that river moves faster and it goes through the waterfall, to rapids, and it gets overwhelming, and it does. But there is no one who says, I don't want it here. Let's run away, let's resist it, let's fix it. No. In the absence of that one, that intensity and that overwhelmed is welcome. One could say welcome, because there's no one to welcome it either. But yes, you on the same page with life. You are the life. You are the space for anything that shows up to be there. And as you see, as you know, it's not going to last. Even if it's super overwhelming, it is going to change. And if you are the space for it to change, that water river of life is already seeking its level. It's already finding the resolution. And how amazing is that? You know, the love can be so overwhelming that it can bring you to tears, or gratitude can bring you to shivers and tears. And so it can any other emotion. So it can any other emotion, which is not on now, but it's still as raw as ever. It still, you know, beats the heart faster. It still brings the breathing to more shallow or deeper or whatever. It's still, you know, like the weather outside. Same with the weather inside. It has its cycles. But it's nothing wrong now. It's all welcome. It's all what is.
Leave it as it is.
Yeah. Yes, because that's what life does. That's what emptiness does. Nothing. Nothing. Leave it as it is means do nothing. Hi, Ernie.
Hi, Kat. Hi, Bob.
Hi,
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I was just contemplating on what Tonya said, that, you know, when you surrender and then you give up all your concepts and wanting and judgments and desire, just reminds me that somehow your mind has grown naturally compassionate, because you're kind of giving up, like you're trusting yourself to the great intelligence of the universe, and you like just, that's what Kat says, relaxing. And somehow you feel it's more like that's the art of living, and just, you know, trusting yourself into this big intelligence and this universe. In that somehow people said it's only in this art of living, it's only paradoxical in the surface, because the more you let go of what you love, the more present your love becomes. That's yeah. And it's the same thing as what the some good athlete really can, you know, they say that they can just you know, work with the proper movement in their body without the conscious effort of the or conscious will. It just happens on its own. So this is like more like a, you know, trying to, I guess, trusting to trusting yourself to the, you know, to the this intelligence.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's like, it's more like a non-action, like the poem writes the poem, or things like you can't tell the dancer from the dance. It's like, you know, it's because the doer, like the doer is wholeheartedly vanished from the deed. You can't tell the dancer from the dance. It's like the fuel is totally turned into a flame. Like there is no more doer. Just let it out, let it all go. And I think it's what Kat said. Yeah, sometimes yeah, it's really good, because sometimes I also have my issues, like sometimes intimidated and things like that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Yeah, thank you. Is the ing, as Bob very often highlights, the dancing, the doing, the poetrying or writing. That's the spin of life, the process. Like the, you know, wind is blowing. Wind is not blowing, it's just blowing. Or rain is raining, but the rain is not doing any raining, it's just raining, and it's just breathing. It's just everything is just that flow of movement. That's the love for life, love for being. Because if there is no movement, obviously there is no electricity, doesn't flow, there is no energy, there is no particles, there is no sound, nothing. So everything is the ing, the move ing. That's the, and that's as good expression as any, you know, like really, how did you say it? Surrender yourself to the flow of life, or submit, or, you know, really kind of dissolve into it. And in that, the doing, the being, the knowing, it's not gonna cease. That's the but you don't have to tell the dancer of it anymore. You don't have to take credit for a happening. And non-doing, yes, in the non-doing of a doer, the doing is naturally unfolding. But there is doing of life, is the flow of the river, the flowing of that constant change, transience. The movement, the moving. Julie, I see you on mute.
Yeah, I just really wanted to say thank you to Tonya for bringing what she brought into the room today, because I was really keen to get to the meeting today, because I had been unwell yesterday and I woke up with an infection, and something happens when I'm unwell. Like I just end up crying all the time and sort of wallowing in these kind of, and it's kind of like, I know I'm unwell because a particular type of tears comes. And there's almost a discomfort. It actually comes from a fear of, I realized just listening to you all, this fear of dying arises in that feeling unwellness. But there is a resistance. So I got caught in the resistance yesterday of wanting it to be over and done with, and very keen to get to the meeting today, because I always know I feel much better after these meetings. But I'm just sitting here and listening to Tonya and just realizing that actually even that, you know, waking up in the morning and it's already present. I didn't make a decision to feel that way. I didn't make a decision to be unwell. I didn't make a decision to have tears. And it just arose. So there's a doing happening, but also there's a realization. And Kat, you mentioned something like this a couple of weeks ago, that, you know, even the fear of death is coming from this love of living.
Yes.
You know, it's like the basis of it. It's like, I actually enjoy life so much. I don't want it to be over. And yeah, so that's quite lovely. And it was really, really nice to kind of loosen things off with listening to Tonya as well, and realizing that it was just a happening. You know, there was no doing on my part. There's nothing wrong. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And funny you should say that, because when Tanya was sharing of that different, waves of really overwhelming, strong, intensified emotions, I actually had the temptation for a moment to bring up the idea of death, because that's the ultimate, at least when we conceptualize death, this is something so final and so ultimate and so scary and so big for human pattern to actually even conceive of the idea of one's own non-existence, which is beyond the mind. I mean, it can't be imagined. Non-existence can't even be conceptualized, really, because who would even conceptualize it? And at the same time, it holds socially, culturally, it holds such a heavy weight that every feeling, every emotion could be very easily, just for the sake of investigation, exaggerate to the point of dying. And that's why in some of the Buddhist schools, they actually love and often contemplate the idea of death, not only going to the graveyard, going to the graveyard and seeing dead bodies or corpses, but their own passing, most of all. Because as Bob often says, you don't know your first breath. Do you think you're gonna know your last one? But I see Tonya is on. You jump in, Tonya.
Just on the death aspect of it, because I very much get that. And I think utter frustration, right? In specific circumstances throughout life, what I've come to realize, and this is very much mind-led, but there's a resonance there, and there's a certain knowing there as well. It's not death as we perceive it, it's death to the person that our minds perceive us to be. So in that moment, we're finding it very hard to function. So me, professionally, or me as a mother, or me as a daughter, or a sister, or all of these things, it's like in that moment there's an inherent trust that what's aware of all of these things is okay, but it's death to these roles that I've perceived myself to be throughout life. And and it's like of course there's a fear for it, but get to the other side of it and realize that they never really existed anyway. These were all just perceived by the mind, and they're all just beliefs. Okay, so we believe ourselves to be this, but when we realize that we are not that, there is a beautiful freedom in being able to step in and out of those roles and play them wholeheartedly, knowing that we do not, I do not depend on these. The love that I am does not depend on these roles, but there's a beautiful play in being able to step in and out of them. So there's death there's a felt perception, or whatever way you want to say it. I get that fear, but know that it's not how we would perceive it as normal. I don't know, is that more confusing than anything? But it's a death to the roles that we would play. The role that we feel that I have to get up early and I need to do this, I need to get kids to school, and I need to work, and blah blah. All these kind of things. It's in those moments of sickness, or in these moments of overwhelmingness, it's very hard to get up and do these things. But knowing that there is a sense of well-beingness underneath it that is aware of all of these things happening, that has always been there, that has never changed. As Bob said, it's like your intuition knowing, but you're fighting against that intuition of knowing that there's well-beingness there regardless of what my mind is telling me is happening now in this moment. And I think as human beings, we're very much pushed to, I don't think I don't think the trust element or the trust aspect, well, for me anyway, with my parents and with their parents, it was always like, you need to do this to be happy, and you need to get this goal, and you need to, you need to strive and try. But in constant trying, there's no being. There was never focus, or there was never the realization of beingness there. So I think that trust element, came at those moments of frustrations in the unfolding of them when I realized, oh wow, like that's the worst thing that I could have perceived at a point in time. So the mind is unable to, the mind can't tell you what is going to make you happy in the future because it doesn't exist. Do you know what I mean? So there's it was a constant unfoldment and a constant wow, and just gratitude for everything the way that it unfolded. So that inherent trust was like, it was like a muscle for all the world, you know. Every time when I thought my idea of what life should be literally just dropped away, and I was okay. And it all worked out anyway. So that inherent trust, I feel like it, for me anyway, it was like a muscle, and now it's impossible to shake that. Like just perfect beingness in every single moment, regardless of what is being perceived. Those.
Beautiful. Yes, certainly the fear of death is optional. It is not, if you look at the natural world, there is action in the face of danger. But there is no such thing as fear of what is going to happen, like imaginary. We have to imagine a situation projected into a non-existent future and then terrorize ourselves and create that hormones, that cortisol running through the body. Animals have action in the face of danger, but they do not think, oh, what will happen if I'll be old or something. At least as far as we understand the neuroscience, they don't project that behavior. So we humans, a little bit of a contemplation of what is to die. You know, when you break a computer, the power, the electricity doesn't die. And you're not the computer, you're not the body, you're not the mind. The life doesn't die. What does die? And Tonya beautifully said that, you know, the idea of me dies every night when you go to sleep. Idea of me dies every time you stop thinking for a moment. When you stop thinking, who am I, oh, I am this or I am that, now silence. There is no I in that moment. Is dead, is non-existent, is unborn.
And even to add to that, I think, I don't know, was it Adi Ashanti, it refers to any moment of peace or bliss or happiness. It's when we actually forget ourselves in that moment. So it's not even just with fear, like the very, very extreme. It's also with happiness. It's also with love in extreme moments of bliss. So it's like two ends of the one stick. Forgetting ourselves, just forgetting ourselves. And there was utter devastation for me when I realized the world went on without me, but a beautiful relief and relaxation came as a result. Well, the world goes on. My children, as hard as it is to swallow as a mother that they will be okay without me, there's so much relief in that because I know that they're, like, you know, it's their journey, my journey, you know, it's everything is to be left as it is, and so much gratification for that.
Beautiful. Yeah. And if the fear of death comes up, by all means, really be super curious about it. Super curious. Get to the bottom of it. Like Tanya, like you were saying, you know, you invite yourself to stay with it. Don't push it. Don't brush it over. Don't run away. Don't try to fix it. Yes, just give yourself into it completely. And see is that gonna, you know, what it is gonna do. Bob has this beautiful, very, very practical advice. Amplify it, make it worse. And the worst case scenario is you're gonna faint. So what a big deal. You wanna punch in the back?
You okay, Bob?
You're gonna punch, no?
That's a rabbit killer.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm fine.
So much love. So much love.
Yeah, isn't it sweet?
I think I'm going to go off this call and just cry. Oh, oh.
Well,
Time's up, yeah. Yeah, so today is Tuesday. We're gonna be here in a couple of days, so join us if you can and like, and have a wonderful day if you are on the other side of the world, a wonderful night if you are around here or wherever. Wonderful now. Have a great.
Mhm.
thank you all.
Have a lovely evening. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Kat. Thanks, everyone.
Love-
Bye, everyone.
love you
Love
all.
Bye, love.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Scott.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.